Welcome to the Mindset Game podcast. I'm very excited and grateful to have Bill Carmody here with us. Bill is a TEDx speaker, best-selling author, professional certified coach, and chief coaching officer for Positive Intelligence, overseeing the application of mental fitness for thousands of coaches worldwide. And he's had some pretty epic life adventures, from becoming a top 100 sales influencer to standing next to Tony Robbins as he rang the opening bell for NASDAQ. That's pretty cool. To dropping 50 pounds and then finishing in the top 50% in his first 140-mile Ironman. He was even flown to Brazil to interview Sir Richard Branson. Bill is on a mission to bring mental fitness to at least 10 million people by 2025. A very important mission for our planet, and I imagine everybody listening would agree with that. So really cool and excited to have you here with us. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be with you today.
Well, how about we start off by you sharing, what is positive intelligence?
Positive intelligence is your ability to approach all of what happens in life with a positive versus negative mindset. What does that mean? It's not, some people say, well, that's toxic positivity. No, that's very different. What we're talking about is being able to have whatever happens in life and have the attitude that life is happening for me, not to me. And the intention that whatever's coming up in the space is an opportunity for me to learn and grow. From a place of positivity, I can always choose how I choose to respond. And if I know that I'm always at choice, I can affect my relationships, I can affect my health, and I can actually affect my own performance.
Beautifully said. And what I'm kind of getting from all of those wonderful words is empowerment.
Mm.
Because when we have awareness and we understand what is happening in our world, in our inner world, then we're at choice, right? And what's wonderful about this program, this set of methodologies, is that we know how to do it. What do we do when we're experiencing something so that we can be empowered rather than be a victim to what's happening?
Yeah, and it's a really good point because the way of quote unquote being a victim can have multiple flavors. And what I mean by that is that some people directly experience it as victim. Other people are what we, in the saboteur language call a stickler. Like it has to be perfect before I do anything, or it's got to be done my way, which is the controller, or I'm always going the next thing over and over and over again. So it's interesting when we are on autopilot, it doesn't manifest as victim for everyone, but it does manifest for everyone. So the question is, what's the flavor that you align to based on how you show up in the world? Yeah.
Brilliant. So tell us, what are these saboteurs? You introduced us to some of these. What do we mean by saboteur? What is that, and what are the different types?
Yeah. So the idea is that there's a lot of risk when we talk about the saboteurs. There's 10 saboteurs and we have all 10 of them. We all do, but they show up in different rank stacking in our lives. The reason I share that is because we are not our saboteurs. So let me do a little caveat before I explain them. When you go into Myers-Briggs or DISC profiles or strength finders, one of the biggest risks is that we pigeonhole ourselves. I'm a high D, so therefore this is how you have to interact with me, or my strength is a double woo, and so this is what I'm good at, and I don't do anything else that's better. Or, the Enneagram 8, I'm an Enneagram 8, so don't talk to me about these other things. So what happens is the risk of any type of an assessment program is that we anchor that that's who we are, and we're not. We are always sage, and sometimes we forget. So the idea of 5 sage powers, that a power of empathy, the power of explore, innovate, navigate, activate, these are our powers that we have all the time. And then sometimes we go too far with them. And that's what happens with the saboteur. So for example, I built and exited 2 multi-million-dollar marketing agencies. And I'll tell you, the first 2 that really showed up for me were controller and hyperachiever. Controller, because I do it my way. And if you're in my way, I'm going to railroad you. Just get out of my way, or you're going to be carnage. Right. And I was confused because it's like, hey, I just made us millions of dollars. Why isn't everyone celebrating? Why is everyone bummed out? Because I was railroading anyone who had even the slightest challenge for me, because I knew in my mind, I knew how to get to the finish line, and I wasn't open to anyone else's suggestions. Same thing with hyperachiever. It's like always the next thing. I'm a 5th degree black belt. I did an Ironman. I did all these things. But do you do this because it's giving you joy and that you're experiencing happiness and fulfillment, or are you just doing the next thing? So from a hyperachiever perspective, it's like, I got to get the next certification. I got to get the next badge. I'm a $1 million company. I get to 5 million. I'm a 5 million. I got to get to 50. I'm a 50. I got to 100. There's no end. I'm a $1 billion company. Tony Chai, who the author of Delivering Happiness, he died a miserable person, even though he was delivering happiness in the world as the CEO of Zappos, because he was making everyone else happy and he didn't experience happiness or fulfillment in his own life. That's what we're talking about. Saboteurs drive you in so many different ways. There are 10 of them, and there's so many different flavors. For people who have a very logic background, they might experience their hyper rational, where they have no need for emotion. It's always about logic, and logic dictates and wins all. Or victim, if they feel like, the world's happening to them, they'll feel victimized. You look at the avoider, which is like, oh, this is too difficult, so I'm not going to do the work that's necessary. Or the pleaser, I want to help and I want to make you so happy that I become the giving tree and I destroy myself. I mean, I can keep going on, but you get a sense like different ways show up for different people based on their conditions, based on the experiences they've had in their lives. And it's going to be stronger for everyone based on their walk in their life. But the key here is we have all 10, all of us. And some of them are super strong and some of them are light. But we all have these things that take us away from who we really are meant to be in the world.
Thank you. And one of the things that we talk about in this show often is about that conditioning, as you said, right? These kind of experiences that we've had that might, really shine a light to some of these saboteur kind of protective mechanism versus others. And they are maladaptive behaviors, right? They don't serve us. As you said, we might accomplish certain things, but we might not experience that happiness or fulfillment or the health that we deserve to have. And I love that you said that we are the sage, right? We're not this collection of parts, but these are protective mechanisms that we have, that we behave out of, that are creating havoc in our life. And so tell us a little bit more about the sage.
Yeah. So the sage is our true essence. We were born our sage. So like one of the exercises we do in our program is we have individuals connect with the picture of themselves when they were 5. They call it the childhood picture exercise. And it's such a breakthrough for so many people because we realize this is innate in us. We don't have to do or learn anything. Our sage is exactly who we are always meant to be. And somewhere along the line, we forget. For me, it was scarcity. I remember the exact moment it happened. My parents got divorced when I was 12, and it happened exactly one time. One time, my mom, who was working, was busy, and she hadn't gone to the supermarket, and she was going to go the next day. My dad was out of the picture, and I opened up the cupboard, and there was only 2 items in the cupboard, and my brother grabbed both of them because he was hungry, and what was left was nothing. And in that moment, I experienced food scarcity exactly one time, never again, one time. I ended up living the rest of my life until literally last couple of years in this space where there was never enough. It forced me to overeat. I would eat because I was always trying to shove food in my mouth because you never know when I'm not going to have the next meal, even though it was a falsehood. But it was a lie that I started to believe, that I was living in scarcity, that I had to go work really hard and make millions of dollars so that I could provide for myself and my family. But one thing, one event, and look at the triggering that happened all throughout the rest of my life. That's what I mean, right? So the controller had to take control. I never want to be, quote unquote, the victim of having an empty cabinet. So therefore, I'm going to make tons of money and I'm going to do all the things I need to do. But where's the happiness? Where's the fulfillment? The hyperachiever, always the next thing, right? You can see this naturally evolves, but we forget we are always sage. And when we come back to our sage, we realize we have the opportunity to live the same exact life with the same exact and even better performance and success in ease and flow. I am more successful today than I was when I built and exited my 2 multi-million-dollar marketing agencies. But at that time, I was miserable because I couldn't enjoy any of my success. Now I'm even more successful, but the thing is, I don't care about the numbers. I love what I do every day. I help people for a living. It's amazing, right? And I'm walking the path. And that feeling of living in sage means I am in constant ease and flow. Things are always happening. There's always things that are being curveballs, but it's beautiful. It's like, great, what do I get to learn today? And that is a very different approach to life. Yeah.
Oh, what a cool story. Thank you for sharing that. And we've had some of the episodes around coherence. We've had HeartMath, in fact, the director of research at HeartMath, the CEO of HeartMath, and HeartMath is a research institution that studies that state of coherence, of flow that you refer to, yeah? And how to approach that and have that. So what you're sharing is really cool because it could be one instance in our life that we made a certain decision, right? We experienced some distress, right? Brother grabbed the last remaining things and we experienced some stress. And in that moment, we made a decision. And that decision, right, then kind of became a belief over time. Yes, something that we might not even be conscious of, but yet it's kind of running the program and all of our behaviors. And it's really cool. That example that you shared reminded me of one of my clients that had kind of a similar situation in childhood, also like happy childhood, they had abundance and so on. But there was a moment, and when she released the beliefs associated with that, she texted me 3 days later with a picture of her holding the keys with a BMW behind her because she hadn't spent money. She had lots of money, but she wouldn't spend on herself, right? Showing me I bought a BMW. A month later, she showed me I bought the house behind me. And that was because of, the beliefs that were no longer serving her that she was able to let go of and, experiencing freedom. And that is really what I think PQ is about. That's what I think this work is about. It's about empowerment and freedom and freedom from these old programs that are just not serving us anymore. They're trying to protect us. They're doing good for us, but they're just not really helping us anymore. And so, what do people need to know that are listening to this now and saying, you know what? I was just like you, right? I was just like you, Bill, or maybe I am just like you still,
Yeah.
right? I have abundance. I have all these things in my life, but I'm really not happy.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. What's fabulous about this is when I first introduced this concept of saboteurs, the first thing that I get back from especially high-powered executives is I need them. I need my hyperachiever. Otherwise, I would just get complacent. I need my controller because if I don't get it done, no one else will. I need my stickler because if I'm not paying attention to crossing the T's and dotting the I's, nobody else will. So the lie of our saboteurs is that we have to do it a certain way or we will not be successful. That's scarcity, right? And even when we are successful, we can be more successful. And therefore, there's no end. We will always be on this chasing what's next, what's next, what's next. So the idea here is that while you can, quote unquote, be successful with your saboteurs, you will not experience happiness and you will not experience fulfillment. That's the truth. And so the flip of that is when I am in Sage, I can be even more successful. But even if I was at the same level of success, but I enjoyed happiness and fulfillment, what's better than that? I'm not going to die of a heart attack. I'm not going to have all these health issues, which is exactly where I was headed. I was 50 pounds overweight, ready for a heart attack. I was about to die, right? Like I could see that. The shift was so palpable because I was telling you the truth. In 2015, I was ready to end my life. I had millions of dollars of business that I'd had from my businesses. I was financially free. I didn't have a care in the world financially. A beautiful wife, two gorgeous children. Life on paper was amazing, but I was tortured by my inner critic, my own judge telling me that I was not enough. And I said, but hang on, at 12 years old, I made a list of conditions. I want to be the CEO of this company. I was on the Inc. 5000 2 years in a row. So I'm hugely successful as a CEO. Like that's condition one, check. I'm married, check. I've got children, check. All these things are good. I'm financially free, check. I don't need to work for anyone, check. If I've meets all these conditions and I'm still miserable, what is the purpose of life? And that is the low point because I literally was ready to end my life because it just was I was just miserable despite what society said success was. Society says it's about wealth, it's about power, it's about influence, right? That's what we hold up as most important in our lives according to the business world and society. And in truth, it's the joy and the happiness that we seek. But happiness is elusive because why am I not happy becomes its own thing, right? So happiness is a result. Result of what? the result of being grateful for what we have, the result of really being in our bodies and knowing like, I'm great no matter what, happens, I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow, and I'm on my journey. And when you have that sort of feeling of confidence and certainty that just drops inside of you because you realize that life is happening for you and not to you, when you really internalize that belief system, then it's like, great, even things that seem catastrophic, even things that like, I'll never know how, my biggest client just left me. How is this a good thing? It's the sage perspective. I can flip it around and say, you know what? What's the knowledge that I would need to know in this situation so that I could be better from it? Better or bitter, right? Those are my choices. I can be better or I can be bitter. The same thing is like, what about the gifts of power? What strengths would I need to grow as a person to have this one bad situation? I'm using air quotes, right? What's this going to be that make it better? And then the inspiration, something that's totally a skill, like I'm going to go write a book about this. It's so incredible. And then what would that do for your life? See, that's what I mean when I say life's happening to you, not happening for you, not to you. It's because there's so many beautiful gifts that are there. We just often look past because our saboteurs are saying, this is bad. This is terrible. We'll never. Ah. And if we believe that lie, we just go down this really negative place where it's like it just keeps spiraling down. But if I say this is happening as a gift, what are the gifts? And I'm curious about the gifts. I manifest that to be my reality because I believe it's true. I find it. I experience it. I live into it. Both are available to us all the time.
That's right. And one of the beautiful things about the PQ approach is that we interrupt the old pattern. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I experience myself as being hijacked, it's the best way I could describe it. Like, this is not good. Well, the thing is that what I used to do is I would basically try to solve the problem. And I would try to solve it in my controller or in my stickler or in my hyperachiever. I would be like, this has to be this way, right? And no good can come from that. None, because what am I going to do? I'm going to basically make other people's lives miserable. I'm going to try to have a saboteur contagion where I'm going to make everyone else feel terrible about whatever's going on. And all that does is just leads to more misery, leads to more pain and suffering and fear and anxiety, all the negative emotions. So instead, now what I do is I do a PQ rep. We could literally do one right now if you want. It takes no more than 2 minutes, right? So like what I do, when I first got introduced to this work, Shirzad, who's the co-founder, and he's the one who put this whole thing together, he said, we were at dinner together and he said, listen, I just want you to take your 2 fingertips and rub them together with such fine detail that you can feel the fingertip ridges on each finger. And my first thought is, why am I doing this? Does this make sense? I don't understand. Why is he having me do this? This is crazy. We're in the middle of dinner, right? Keep doing it. Because as you continue to bring your focus to your fingertips and rubbing them with such fine detail that you can feel the fingertip ridges, you let go of the monkey chatter, the monkey mind, and you begin to drop into your body and go, that's interesting. And those feelings drop you in, and suddenly you're calm. Suddenly you have a new perspective. And in this space, you can create anything. Before I was narrowly focused, tunnel visioned, has to be this way. Now I'm in the field of all possibility. Okay. I can have empathy for myself. I am an imperfect human being. I can have empathy for someone else, whatever I'm interacting with. I can have empathy for my situation. Okay, this is unfortunate. The market just crashed. I lost a lot of money. That's kind of a bad thing, that's too bad. But I can have empathy for it. It's like, but the market will probably come back. It's okay. Like, this is not the end of my world. I'm good. And then I can explore, what are the possibilities here? I can innovate. What do I need to do? Who do I get to be, and how do I get to create so that this can actually turn into a gift? I can go back to my navigate. Like, what's my purpose in life? Why am I here? The big arc of what I'm up to. And then activate. Let's take some action. Let's turn this thing around. And let's make this be the beautiful gift that when I look back 10 years from now, this was the moment. See, that's the idea of a PQ rep. It just gets you centered. It's the equivalent of heart maths coherence. When you are coherent, you are in flow and you are making much better decisions. Same concept. When I drop into my body and I'm no longer up here in my cerebral head, I have options. I can decide what's best. I'm not on autopilot. I'm choosing what's next. And we are always at choice, but we often forget that we're at choice. And we just think this is what we have to do. And we're not going to make the best decisions when we do that.
Absolutely true. And I imagine those people listening can remember times when they were distressed, when they were incoherent and they may have overreacted or made a bad decision or right. We've all been there. And when we are able to be very mindful about how we feel, to be able to choose to do a quick coherence technique, for example, or to do a PQ rep, or to use one of many different modalities, even just noticing what's going on in the body and where are we feeling it, what color is it, what intensity, all of those good things. All of that is really to interrupt the pattern, the unconscious pattern, to be able to reset the body and choose a sage kind of higher perspective or higher action that's going to be better for ourselves and for others, with more compassion for ourselves and others. And I think that's one of the beautiful gifts of this program, is just more compassion, because when we see ourselves as that little kiddo in the photo, for example, that you mentioned, I mean, who can be mad at that little sweet one? And it really is that. And what I know from my work is that these protective mechanisms, these parts that are sabotaging, if you will, right, the things that we want, or how we truly want to feel, or even sabotaging our health, right? That those parts are protective mechanisms trying to protect some even younger little part of us that was traumatized and had some pretty extreme beliefs set at that point, and extreme emotions, and that energy is still stuck in the body for many of us. And so these saboteurs are trying to create harmony in the system at all costs, yeah, but yet it's maladaptive. It just doesn't serve us anymore, and it's not true.
Yeah.
We don't need them. We're not those little kids anymore. And and we have more wisdom, we have support, and we have access to our own higher self, if you will. And
Right.
there's more wisdom, and that's the beautiful part of this work. It really is about love and compassion.
Well, then it's exactly right. So all decisions are made in love or fear. When I'm in love, I'm in my sage brain, right? I'm really seeing what's possible and I'm looking for life as it is. When I'm in fear, I'm in scarcity. I'm in spaces. I'm thinking my interpretations of how life is, not what it is, but my interpretation. So I got my blinders on. So I'm not really seeing what's truly there. And so if I realize that, it's like, if I'm in a place of fear, I shouldn't be making decisions right now. I want to do those PQ reps we just did to drop back into my body and then be back in the place of love. Like, so if I was really empathetic, or I really had empathy for myself or someone else, or if I had compassion, now what? How would that change the way I feel about this current situation? And it just changes the whole game. And that's when I experience my abundance. That's when I experience the abundance of life, because I'm really connected to that interconnected oneness that we all have access to it, but sometimes we just forget.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful thing, because every time we make that shift, right, to the sage perspective, if you will, we're not only increasing the health, the coherence in our own body, but we're also radiating more love, right? These higher frequency energies out into this field around our body, right? Raising the whole collective, right?
That's what we call the sage contagion. So we talked about the saboteur contagion earlier, but what you're hitting on is the sage contagion. So, when I'm feeling in my sage, I'm enrolling you into yours. Like, notice, like, our own energy level as we've gone from the very beginning, it's like we're edging each other up because we're both in that place of love and compassion for each other in this moment. And therefore it radiates. And I'm sure the people who are listening right now are feeling a little more pumped up, because it's like they can feel it too. And that's sage contagion. And this is when I talk to CEOs and executives, this is the difference. It's like, I can go in and command and control, and I can march and bark and pick orders and all this stuff. I can point fingers and blame and shame and all that stuff. I have all that power, especially the CEO. But the real power is to come in with a place of curiosity, empathy, calm, clear-headed action. And from that perspective, I can really look at, how do I trust and inspire? How do I trust my team and inspire them to be their best? And when something bad happens and they're like terrified to tell me, and I embrace them and say, thank you for doing your absolute best. I appreciate what you did. And I know this must be really hard for you right now as you go through it. They're like surprised. They're like, wait, you're not taking my head off? And suddenly they want to work harder because they want to fix the mistake. And when you have compassion for them and what they're up to, and they really see it, they don't want to let you down. It's just a different way of being. I mean, what I love about this, why I'm here at Positive Intelligence, why I'm the chief coaching officer, was in the first week of working with Shirzad, we were having a conversation, just the two of us, and he went, wait, hold on, I need to do PQ reps. Give me a second.
Oh,
And he like went into his whole thing and just like for a minute, and then he said, okay, I'm back. I said, I was hijacked just then. And I knew whatever would continue in this moment, like it would just take us down the wrong path. So I had to center myself so that I could really speak to you what was going on. So when you said this, it triggered this inside of me. And rather than doing like being allowing that to take over our conversation, I wanted to reset and say, is there a better way we can go after this? I was sold. Like that was my moment. It's like I've never been in a culture like this in my life, and I'm here to make sure that this survives. You know what I mean? And thrives and like goes over there. Because when you start to see someone living in mental fitness, it's like, why would you ever go back? And what's beautiful is as we grow and grow as an organization, like everyone's called into that. People come in and they're all like hyperactive and doing their thing, and then they suddenly do this work and they're like, oh, I can breathe again. I could just be. How great is it when people can just be and do amazing work, but just do it in that place of calm and that place of just love and connection and also be effective? That's next level.
that's right. So share with us a little bit of the science of this work.
Yeah, so this began. So Shirzad published the New York Times bestselling book Positive Intelligence in 2012. So the original science in positive intelligence is all in the endnotes and appendix of that book. But what's happened since then is we've written two white papers that are on our website. One that really looks at the neuroscience, another one looking at the statistical analysis around the saboteurs themselves and how they interrelate. So we've really tried to continuously lean in, and there are some of our coaches are working on programs where they're trying to look at other aspects that they can prove scientifically. And so there's other work that's in the works. But for me, like what I always caution in these conversations is it invites the hyper rational into the conversation. It does. So it's a catch 22. Like the more science I provide, the more the hyper rational is, yeah, but, and there's no end to the yeah, but, because there's always going to be another layer. And there's like, but what about this? Was that particularly peer reviewed with this person over there? And which MRI machine did they use? And was it calibrated? It's like, there's no end. Right. But the science is simple. Our neural pathways are formed based on our choices. And when I come from a saboteur space, I reinforce that choice and it goes deeper and deeper into my neural pathways. The neuroscience is when I do my PQ reps and I choose a different choice, I am developing new neural pathways, the ones that are leading toward happiness and fulfillment because they're coming from a place of love and abundance as opposed to fear and scarcity. And what we can show in an MRI machine is if you go into the MRI machine, you can see the different parts of your brain light up. When you're doing PQ reps, you can see it the same way you're doing it at heart math and coherence. You can see it, like you can see this. If it matters to you and you want to go after this, that's all there. But for me, the proof of the pudding is that we've in the last 3 years, we've taken 35,000 people through this program in the early stages. Like we're just talking about like our coaching community. Forget all the rest of the people who've done this work. And in this, what we see is transformational. People are coming back and it's like, you changed my life in 6 weeks, literally 6 weeks. I'm a different person. And we see it. And so like, I don't care what your science, like, sure, here's all the science. Here's all, go ahead, go crazy, have fun. But the thing for me, the proof is the consistency we hear when people connect with their childhood picture and people start to use the PQ reps in the day-to-day activities, and they start to see that their life just opens up for them, where they're making choices from love and not fear, when they're living into happiness and well-being while also increasing their performance. That is the proof that I point to. And as we see more, when a lot of that's on our website, we keep showing like what are the response rates or how people are sharing. The testimonials are insane. We're hearing from Fortune 100 companies that it's transforming their cultures. That's what I'm up about, right? The actual lived experience. Because to me, like you can document all that stuff, it's fine, and we do. But the real essence is when you have an experience like this and you get out of a hijacking and you drop back into your body, you'll never go back.
Because you know it's possible.
You know, it's possible. Why would you ever choose differently?
So I'm curious, what do you hear when you meet with high performers and like CEOs, and as the kind of more dominant saboteurs? What are some of the programs that are most typical?
Yeah. So typically when you're at someone at a C-suite level, you're going to see, the controller, the stickler, and the hyperachiever are typically the ones that drive the C-suite, which is different than people who are basically trying to be more managerial. They're trying to get things done. So they tend to be a lot more focusing on the hyper rational, where it's like logic, 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 or pleaser because they're trying to get promoted, or, victim, like, oh my God, everything keeps falling on my plate. Right. So it's the spatter shot. Like everyone has all of these, but like, people, especially early when they're first starting out their career, restless is a thing because they don't know what they should be focusing on. Right. So that's the whole thing. Like everything's different based on where you are in your career and how you've gotten there. But a lot of our learned patterns are those who are stickler, hyperachiever, and controller. When those saboteurs are driving, those are the ones that tend to get to the higher ends of the echelon. But that's not my message, right? I acknowledge that that's what's happening because they don't know another way. That's command and control, right? That's the operating system of so much of corporate America. Stephen M. R. Covey wrote Trust and Inspire. And what's beautiful about that is that's the sage contagion. It's like, yeah, you could do command and control, and you can see that that's effective for those people, but they're miserable. They hate their lives. They hate their jobs. They're hugely successful, and they want it to end. They can't wait till retirement. Then you got the people who focus on trust and inspire, and that's sage contagion, and they're building an entirely different culture where it's sustainable, and they never want to leave their jobs because they love it. It's like this is my second family. These are the people that I just can't imagine not being with day in and day out. That's a whole different way of being. That's what I feel right now. It's like my coaching team, we're getting together in New York, at the end of the quarter, and I'm so excited because we've been doing all this virtual stuff, and I want to hug them, and I haven't been able to hug them for years. It's like, this is going to be so fun. That's because I love these people. I've grown up with these people in the last couple of years. We've all grown together, and that's that our culture is amazing. That's what I love, and that's what I
Mm.
hope for any executive.
Thank you. And I love that you brought up this concept of culture because when the leader, right, him or herself, right, do this work, right, it starts with them. They are the lighthouse, if you will,
Right.
right? And once they get it, viscerally get it, right, this feeling of that sage, right, their true self and that self-awareness, then they're able to give the gift to others and to be able to be differently with others and to share resources, right? What I see is with clients, then they'll bring me to, me or my team to work with their teams or with their, right? All of that because you want to give the love, you want to share that because you want them too to experience that joy. And then the whole culture shifts, right? There's more engagement. As you said, it's like a family, there's more meaning and purpose. And it's a unified, shared, meaningful, I want to say fate, right?
Yeah.
Values, all of that. So Bill, I'm so grateful for you sharing this wisdom, this set of tools with us. How can people learn even more, take the assessment?
Sure.
Where do they go?
So if you go to positiveintelligence.com, you can see all of our assessments. We have two really important ones. The one we've been talking about today is the saboteur assessment. It'll easily allow you to rank, which are your top accomplished saboteurs. So you'll know that we all have the judge. So that doesn't even, we know you have that one. Let's look at the other ones. And so we rank those ones. And then we also have one that's the PQ vortex, which basically says on a scale of 1 to 100, how happy are you on a day in and day out basis? And one of the reasons why we look at this is positive versus negative mindset is that if you are at anything below 75% positivity, what's happening is you're primarily being driven by a negative mindset, regardless of which saboteurs are there, because we in our brains echo chamber the negative thoughts at a 3 to 1 to a positive one. So if I compliment and say, you look wonderful today, you're like, yeah, yeah. But if I say, watch out behind you, like, you know what I mean? Like there's that other thing. So we look at the positivity and we sort of see where you are. Anything 75 and above is basically you're living in this place of positivity as default. Anything below 75, which is what most people are in, they're in this place where they continue to experience negative emotions. So I would say go there. That's a great place to start at positiveintelligence.com. There's case studies, there's white papers, there's resources. You can even do some sample PQ reps. We have a lot of resources there and available. So I think it's a great place to begin.
Beautiful. And last question here. What would you say to a little newborn, right? Joining this world of ours, what does he or she need to know to live their highest, best, most joyful life?
You already are.
That's it.
It's it. Because the thing is, that newborn doesn't know anything different. If they could just stay that innocent, sage self, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Yeah, which is why this work is so important. Because
Yeah.
as parents and teachers and caregivers, neighbors, as we're all more in our sage, then less of the little ones are going to have those conditioned programs in the first place because they'll know their worthiness. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Really grateful. Thank you for the good work that you do. I'm right there on that mission with you. Happy to support because you and Shirzad and the team do very important work. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.